We should have danced in.
We
It was
should have.
awesome. Bree, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You are joining us from Afterpay, and we're going to talk about consumer spending. So I want to kick us off with just a big picture question to sort of dispel some of the misconceptions about what Afterpay does and how the buy now, pay later category works. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit, kind of to get us started, who is it for and how does it work?
Yes. So, buy now, pay later is a way for consumers to pay for whatever they're buying over time. So, a lot of people, when we first sort of expose them to what it is, they immediately go to, oh, this is like reverse layaway. So, consumers can use Afterpay or buy now, pay later at 100,000 brands globally. And what they do is either online or in store at checkout, they select Afterpay. They create an account and they check out. So at the time of checkout, it's 25% of the total transaction, and then every 2 weeks, 25%. They're paid in full 6 weeks later, and the nice part is there's no downside. So separate or different from traditional credit products, there is no sort of way to accumulate debt. So that's what it is. And who is it for? Really anyone who is not interested in opening a traditional consumer credit card. What we found, though, is when we launched 3 years ago, the majority of our consumers are millennial and Gen Z. So this is a cohort of consumer that is very averse to traditional credit. They prefer to spend the money that they have. And so we see like a lot, in fact, over 80% of our consumers are millennial and Gen Z. So call it 18 to 35.
You told me something crazy about that group of people, which is that so many of them don't have a credit card at all.
Yes, so millennials, that cohort, 1 in 3 don't own a credit card. 2 out of 3 have never even applied for a credit card. So this is a group of consumers that grew up in the global financial crisis, and they're afraid of sort of traditional credit products. Like people my age, mid-40s, I'm totally fine with my Platinum card. I like the points, but this is not who that consumer is.
For people in this room who are saying, okay, Gen Z, millennials, maybe that's not my customer yet. Why is it important to start thinking now about buy now, pay later options?
I think as a merchant, one of the things that's really important is to consider just consumer behavior. So as a way to pay, buy now, pay later is growing dramatically. So Afterpay launched in the US 3 years ago. We now have close to 20 million consumers that use Afterpay. And what they're asking for is more in different categories. So when we launched, the majority of transactions and merchants and brands were in the sort of fashion and beauty space.
That kind of quick instant buy, right?
Correct. So that, $400 dress or a pair of boots or a handbag. And now what we're seeing is consumers are actually asking for other categories. So for example, we surveyed our Afterpay consumers, and home and decor was the #1 requested vertical that they'd like to see more of. They'd like to see more assortment, more brands. And in the last 12 months, we've seen about 150% growth in that particular vertical. So, we see history repeating itself. We've started in Australia, we launched in the US, we're global now, and it always starts this way, fashion, and then it expands into other verticals.
I mean, one of the interesting things too is you said, consumers are asking you to have more home options for them. Some of them are saying, Afterpay is more important to me than the vendor. I'm going to go to Afterpay to figure out what brands I'm shopping. How are you a discovery tool for?
Yeah, so this is sort of, we didn't really expect this to happen, but our merchant partners and brands that we work with, they oftentimes tell us that we are a marketing partner that just happens to process payments,
Okay.
which is kind of interesting. So consumers that use Afterpay, they fall in love with it because they realize after the first time they use it, there's no downside, there's no catch. So they come to Afterpay, they come to our app, they come to our website as the point of discovery. So they're searching for new brands, they're discovering product, and they know they want to use Afterpay at checkout. So in the last 12 months, we've been sending leads out to our merchant partners from our properties, from our app, from our website. And now it's to the point where we're sending over 1 million leads a day out. And
That's amazing.
It's actually incredible. There are a lot of companies out there that wish they could be that discovery engine. It sort of happened organically because the consumer is so passionate about using Afterpay at checkout.
I mean, consumer behavior is shifting, towards this in such a dramatic way. what's the best first step a vendor can take or a merchant can take if they're interested in sort of taking part in this big change?
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on the business, it's an omni-channel solution, so it works online and in store. Super easy integration. The way that we work in a store environment is through Apple or Google Pay. So as long as the store is enabled with NFC or tap technology, so in other words, you can use Apple Pay
Yep.
at the point of sale, then Afterpay works with zero integration. So it's really easy to test and learn, and what we're finding now with a lot of partners is they like to launch us in store first,
Okay.
because it gives them the data that they need to maybe create an internal business case. Like, why should I prioritize this on the e-commerce side of my business? So it's just start the conversation. We'd love to hear from anyone who's interested, but it is quite simple to test and learn, and you can use a pilot sort of scenario to get data collection.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. This is a beautiful space. And you should have had Martha at the end. It's a really hard act to follow, but she was amazing.
Well, you are too. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Caitlin.